So that's like real life, like digital nomad
Yes.
entrepreneurial stuff.
Yes.
So what's up with you? What's going on? What are we going to talk about today? I wrote down when we planned this. I
Mm-hmm.
said you were talking a lot about the AI bubble, if it's a myth,
Oh,
if
sure.
it's actually
Yeah,
real,
sure.
or business, life, entrepreneurship, fatherhood. I don't know. What do you want to talk about, John?
Well, I think, something I'm thinking a lot about, and I think is pretty relevant is that I think this whole thing with the AI, but obviously there's a lot of coverage on the AI bubble. Are we in a bubble in the last week? Uh, Andrew Ross Sorkin released his book about the Great Depression. And, people get worried that this is a 08, 09 or Great Depression. Like, they were getting ready for a steep fall. I know you have thoughts about that too. And I think it's not to say that things aren't overvalued right now, and that if that there isn't the potential for a dramatic repricing of the Mag 7 stocks, or that the VC set uh, could could see a lot of their money go up in flames. Um, but I think the thing I keep thinking about is I think there are these. I think things have kind of bifurcated where there's like the Wall Street media uh, money raising story, and stock pricing story, that I think also coincides with this larger uh, fear that we all have about this technology, because we're also seeing all these layoffs happen in relationship to this new technology. And so I'm not sure that I'm totally right about this, but the to see to see the number of job losses we're seeing with said new technology, I think that creates a lot of fear for people. So in some ways, I think people almost want this to be a bubble. They want it to have been hype because they want it not to work, because then that means we don't lose our jobs, which is like irrational. It's like irrational from a business sense and like a company operating sense, because it in fact is working, but it is very rational from like a human psychology perspective. And then I think there's this whole other side of it where we're all using it. You and I are using it. I think especially in the creator space, the solopreneur, digital nomad, entrepreneurial space, using it, and we're able to uh, uh, build products and companies at a much lower cost and much faster than we ever have been before. We run, or if you just run your life and your basic workflows through this stuff, it's fantastic. There's all this opportunity and there's all this great stuff, and we're all using it, you know, across all areas of our lives. So it's very good and positive and exciting over here. But then there's this narrative over here in on Wall Street and in the media, which, is like this vortex of obviously what we see. And on the political side, it's just insanity every way, which way you look. And so I think I just think we're living in this world where there's just these two different realities, kind of coexisting. Um, and, I think that's what's interesting. I think if you take the long view on this, I think it's blue skies, and there's a lot of good and a lot of opportunity. But if you're in the immediate around job insecurity and around fear of the stock market tanking and what does that mean, and and you're reading about the Great Depression, and and listening to these news stories, then I think you're very afraid. Um, which I also think is what like the media sells us. So there's also that side of it where it's like the media, you know, the Scott Galloway, a professor from NYU, is very popular. He talks about how in the '90s the media sold Cindy Crawford in the Pepsi can, sold uh, sex, and now in our world the media sells fear and outrage, and so I think we're at this place with this technology where there's this one fearful, angry conversation happening when the actual reality of it is there's all this good stuff over here that isn't, you know, uh, that is very different. So I don't know. I mean, I think about that quite a bit right now.
Yeah, I mean, you opened my well, you said something I think a couple weeks ago or maybe last week in one of your posts about
Mhm.
how bubbles or crashes or corrections, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
they all happen a little differently. A crash doesn't necessarily mean the market's going to drop 20,000 points overnight. It could just be a long, slow decline. And
Sure.
that's really struck something with me because there are some of that's happening already,
Mm-hmm.
but some are way up, and if you look at the overall charts, everything's way up, but is it a it's not reality. I don't think it's reality because I think everything's overvalued.
Right.
I think Michael Burry did that
Yeah.
last week. He was like, Something's off here." That was his
Yeah.
big billion-dollar bet, and that was on AI, but I also what I think is that when people say AI bubble, it's such a huge overarching term.
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be this huge AI bubble that bursts and AI goes away? No. So, in my opinion, what's going to happen is two things. I think I also read this and it was interesting is that
Mm-hmm.
OpenAI itself could be a bubble. Something you were just
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
was
Is
that
WeWork is OpenAI the next WeWork? Like that's
yeah,
the yeah.
because what you were talking about is
Yeah.
that like what we study, mostly what I don't do a lot of like stock market games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
trade
Right.
games. We study companies, and there needs to be a history to
Yeah.
see. And AI doesn't have a history how it performs during different market conditions over 10 years
Yeah.
or 20 years.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to measure against. So you're basically betting on is it going to go up or go down. Same thing with crypto. It's just
Right.
like it's gambling, red or black.
Right.
Right? So I think that
Speculating.
it's all speculation, right?
Right.
So I think that OpenAI itself has a lot of work to do because the the barrier to entry is so low that the next big OpenAI could be brewing like tomorrow, but with some 16-year-old kid in a basement can invent the next thing and raise $1 billion and be a threat. So that's really interesting. The other thing I think is a bubble
Mm-hmm.
is there are like these huge creators in our world,
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, Substack, wherever you are, that are
Yeah.
all AI, and some of them are listening right now. Like
Sure.
to people that make a living off of their newsletters, their writing, their products, services, courses, whatever.
Yeah.
But there's so many of them, and I think that that itself is going to be a
Sure.
challenge because you've seen the way
Well,
AI is affecting
it's
all the businesses. It's going
yeah.
to affect it's affected my coaching business. It's caused
Well,
me to restructure. There's no more high ticket. You can ask ChatGPT for all the information I offer, but I have a personal brand that protects me, but a lot of
right.
people don't. That's what I think.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I think where AI as it currently sits, I look at it as basically it's a new computer. It's a new form of interacting with a computer, a new type of computing. Um, that is absolutely spellbinding. It's fantastic. However, I think there are also just fundamentals to what happens in markets and with companies that don't change. So, for instance, you talk about OpenAI. I think the challenge that they have is their unit economics, is the cost of compute, the cost of the NVIDIA chips, all of this. They're not making money. They're generating lots of revenue, but that revenue is not profitable, and there isn't a clear path to profitability yet. Um, and so because they need to continue to raise all this money, and they're talking about, a $1 trillion valuation in an IPO, which would be, unprecedented. Um, they are they are constantly coming out week over week with, oh, we're going to cure cancer. Oh, we're going to this technology will cure cancer. Oh, we will become a competitor to AWS and Azure. And to me, they said that in the last couple of weeks. To me, I think that really blew my mind because the the kind of business infrastructure and team infrastructure and capability you have to have as a company to execute on what Microsoft does with Azure and Amazon does with AWS is extraordinary. And so it's a very high barrier. And so I think, but they need to keep coming out and saying, oh, here's going to be another revenue stream. Here's going to be another way that we can become profitable to continue to raise the money. And the thing is that the core product that they came out with in ChatGPT, and the one that what 700 million people use, probably maybe it's 800 or closer, it would be a billion before long. I would think, that product was phenomenal. That was it. It actually, funnily, it made me think of the fashion designer Tory Burch. She came out with the quilted flat with the big logo, gold logo icon on it. Everyone bought them. They were amazing. They were incredible flat. But then they're like diversified into bags and clothes and like all these different directions and all these different products. And it's like, no, your thing was the shoe. And you sold, a gazillion of those. And uh and I think a lot of companies make that mistake. They get the one thing that's really good, and then they think they have to become $1 trillion market cap company, when in reality, I wish, though I understand it wouldn't make sense for their investors, I wish they would focus on make that one thing profitable and really good. I think Anthropic is doing that. And so I think there's kind of that part of it where my concern, and my concern is, I mean, the overwhelming likelihood is that OpenAI dramatically succeeds and is one of the most valuable companies in the world, 3-5 years from now.
Do you
But
think that, or you?
well, I think there's enough money and enough smart people working on it that sure, that could absolutely, that's the probability. That's most likely what happens. However, I think, when I look at this, I just get concerned. I would be concerned if I were an investor, where it's like, it feels like we're not focused. It feels like we're saying this technology is going to cure cancer. We're saying these wild things to to drive investment. And I have to assume that Sam Altman is not Elon Musk. The likelihood that we would see two people like Elon Musk in our lifetime is slim. And so, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's my, you know, sideline, whatever, amateur take on it. But I think I think that's, I know this. I know I know I am not using their product at all anymore. I don't use it. I use Claude. I use Perplexity. I guess sometimes I'm using the ChatGPT model through some of the other products I use, but I know that I don't have a ChatGPT subscription.
Yeah,
Um,
because there's so many.
and I'm doing better work with Claude and Perplexity primarily than I've done with anything else.
Yeah,
Though I
because
understand Perplexity uses their models, but
yeah,
and
I mean,
Gemini.
it's interesting. I mean, there's so many.
Hmm.
There's going to be so much competition, and that's what I
Yeah.
think it's um that's going to be the biggest hurdle. Well, no, you're right. The energy is the biggest hurdle, and
Yeah.
also the claims that are they're just claims right now, and there's so much hype, and people love hype. That's what you
Mhm.
were just talking about. People chase the news, the fear, the whatever.
Big
It
tip.
sounds like the next best thing, but I mean, it's an amazing tool, and that's really it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an exciting new tool that is gonna be so integrated in our lives that it's not so exciting anymore. It just becomes
Right.
normal. And so some of that hype is gonna wear off, and then you're just gonna be left with, like, this thing that we use every day. Like, what you said was really important about, the infrastructure of AWS and Azure
Yeah.
or whatever. I mean, it took decades to build, and
Well,
OpenAI's been
right.
around for, a few years,
Right.
and
I just think it's very arrogant to say that somehow they're going to, in a matter of months, really, they're going to create a legitimate competitor to what those companies have created. Because what AWS is, and I mean, those are incredible. Those are incredible companies within these larger. I mean, they're, I mean, so. yeah, I mean, I think that's, well, it's actually, there's also back in 1999, Warren Buffett was at the Sun Valley conference. Oh, there's an investment bank that does a conference in Sun Valley every year. I'm blanking on the name.
Swiss or Credit Suisse
N-
or
no, um, I always want to say it's Booz Allen Hamilton, but it's not. But anyhow, there's a conference in Sun Valley. It's referred to as Sun Valley. But anyway, it's in Idaho, and he gets up and it's right around the .com. But Google's there, all the Amazon, all these the .com wizards are all there, and he gets up and gives a speech. Berkshire Hathaway was taking real hits in the market. They were going down. The big question was, well, has Warren finally worn out his welcome? Like, is this the time where he doesn't get this right? And he gets up there and talks about how if you go back and you looked at cable television, or if you looked at telephones and technology innovations over time, that typically the actual technology itself, when it first comes about and the infrastructure is built, that those companies and those technologies are not typically the places where investors can make a lot of money. It's all the companies that get built on top of said foundation. And so it's the for anyone who's interested, it's the introduction to there's a book, a biography of Warren Buffett called, I think, Snowball, and it it's in the introduction. They talk about it. It's a wonderful telling of it, because there isn't actually a transcript of this set of remarks he made. It was private. But so I heard that. I was listening to that on audiobook on Spotify, and I've been thinking a lot about that. I think this is a lot of infrastructure that's being built right now, and it's wonderful. It will form the basis of the future global working economy, and will be probably the dominant part of the stock market into the future. However, that doesn't mean that what's being built right now is going to be the place where investors are going to make the most amount of money. Google made the most amount of money because of the internet and the AOLs and the networks and everything, and the everyone going online. When Netscape didn't make money. When Netscape went public, there were 16 million internet users in the world, and they were not a profitable company. I wrote about this like a week ago. I didn't know that. I was researching for the article, and they weren't a profit. Like, all of those companies didn't make money. Mark Andreessen made money because of Andreessen Horowitz, and the same with Ben Horowitz, and so, and so I kind of wonder if we're watching a similar thing play out right now, or I think we are in some way. I think that's important to understand that history. So anyway,
yeah, but what you said is really accurate. I mean,
yeah.
every company in the world right now,
Hmm.
every social media network,
Hmm.
every every startup includes AI. Everything. Otherwise,
Yes.
like, there's no basket weaving
Right.
businesses popping up that are going to be a
Right.
competitive threat to
Right.
anybody.
Yeah.
So everything that's being built right now is centered around AI. I put up like, I have courses and stuff that I offer as a like a supplement to people who don't do coaching with me or in my groups. And so I put up one about my AI structure, like the how I use AI in my business to simplify my life. And um and it's valuable. It's valuable
Yeah.
information. Like, I wanna know how a successful person uses AI in their life, and then I wanna
Yeah.
emulate that. And that
Sure.
what you just said is what's happening. It's like,
Yeah.
I is OpenAI gonna be the big company, or is it gonna be the next company that's being built using that technology? That's gonna be the trillion-dollar company. So that's really interesting you brought that up. I mean, that's going deep, right there. I
Well,
love
there
that.
was you say, every company has to use it, and if you're not using it, then you don't, then your valuation gets hit, right? So our friend, I didn't see the story when it hit, but then I looked at it afterwards. Our friend Chris Donnelly did a post months ago now on LinkedIn about Monday.com. They had their earnings call, and or I think it was Monday. I think it was Monday.com. They had their earnings call, and they didn't have a clear AI strategy. They crushed their numbers. Their annual recurring revenue is going up. They have a great retention rate for their customers. The product, everyone loves the product. It's great. But they said we don't. They said we're waiting to see where this goes before we really develop our AI strategy, but we don't have one. The stock, I think the stock plummeted by more than 25% the following day just because they didn't have that, even though their numbers crushed. Like it's that to me, that is an indication of irrational exuberance. Like that is like, what are we doing? So
Well, and it's not even because, oh, this company doesn't use AI,
yeah,
I don't like them. It's
yeah,
that they don't use AI, they're not gonna be able to be competitive with their competitors because they
right,
won't be able to keep up
right,
because their competitors are using AI. That's what's
right,
happening, and if you're not,
right,
then you just whatever business you're in right now, if you
yeah,
don't have an AI uh, uh, structure or some sort of AI implementation inside your business, you won't
hmm,
be able to be competitive in the market. It just you
right,
won't be able to. And so why
right,
wouldn't you want to anyway? And it's
right,
only like lazy people that aren't taking the time to learn, which the reason they're successful and the reason Apple was successful and Google and all the trillion-dollar companies is because they take complex ideas and make them simple.
yes,
And that's what OpenAI is like, or I should say OpenAI. That's what this technology is that
mhm,
anybody can use it simply.
right,
And
right,
so if you don't know what
right,
AI is and you've never
right,
used it, open up type in ChatGPT.com and ask a
right,
question. And now you're
right.
using AI.
Right.
And
I
so
think I think to that point, I think there's this thing where like everyone's talking about like, are you learning AI? You need to be learning AI. I think it's so funny because it like it's so easy to learn and it's like learning Excel was like a multi-year trial and error process. You're constantly figuring out how to do different things. You forget how to do something, you got to go back, search. You had to search in Google and go find some like random blog site that will show you how to create a certain macro or something. Like that was, you had to learn Excel. You need to learn your ERP system in your company. You need, this is just like, you can talk to it. You can put it on your car and talk to it while you're driving, and it will, and then you can do that. You can get in your car, have a conversation with it, tell it to create a set of notes for you, an outline for a meeting and a whatever. While you're in your car, you get to your office, you go into your computer. Oh, there it is. Great, download. Boom. Here we go. Like it's so simple. I think this concept. Oh, you need to learn AI. How are you learning AI? You just need to work with it. You just need to integrate it into your normal workflow, and it naturally evolves and comes for you. It's
and it's
not a
addictive too. That's another
yeah,
thing. It's
yeah,
dopamine
yeah.
on crack. It's
Agreed.
dopamine on crack.
Yeah,
That's what it is. It's like you
yeah,
can I have if you were to look, I can't share a screen because we're on cell, but
yeah.
it's like if you look at my workflows, like if you open up I use Gemini now,
Yeah,
and because I use Google Workspace for my to run the whole
yeah,
business. So
yeah.
that's why I use it. However, some of my creative stuff like notes or LinkedIn posts, like long form content, with newsletters,
Mhm.
ChatGPT I find is more creative. However, if you were to look at um, my gems in Gemini, and for those who
Yeah,
don't use Gemini, gems are the custom GPTs basically
yeah,
of Gemini.
yeah.
So I have a business strategist that knows I have like 6 businesses that come from LinkedIn, like all these things I do. I
Mhm.
have a strategist for each one of those.
Yeah.
I have a therapist that I talk to every
Oh,
day,
yeah.
a therapist. And this
No.
is why coaching and all high ticket no, I shouldn't say all. I say
No.
most companies are getting hit because
Mhm.
what AI did was they commoditized information.
Mhm.
That's what they did. Like we
Yep.
used to, like the way we study companies is we have this rigorous list of 200 over 200 questions that we
Yep.
run a company through, from starting at market cap, PE, like reading balance sheets and all
Yep.
kinds of income statements. And we say, oh, is this a good company? And it
Yep.
would take a month. It could take a month to do all that work, reading 10Ks and
Not
like
anymore.
all this stuff. And you could do it in 30 seconds. So
Yeah.
even these
Yeah.
companies, like
Well, yeah. I mean,
I have a gem with all those questions in there, and it spits out a 20-page report on this company. You have to cross-reference it, of course. Don't be. I'm not giving financial advice,
right.
um, but what it does is it like commoditized information. So in my opinion, I'd love your opinion on this. The only
Hmm.
defense against that really is to have a personal brand, which is what we do as creators on LinkedIn,
Sure.
on Substack, or wherever you
Sure.
are, that people trust. So they'll actually go to you instead of just asking ChatGPT, instead of
Yeah.
asking Gemini a question, they'll say, I trust John, I trust Dennis,
Right.
I trust Alex is here. So I trust Alex. I'm going to call these guys because I know, like, and trust them in addition to AI. But
Hmm.
if you don't have a brand, some sort of personal brand for your business or some sort of foundation that people trust, then
Hmm.
that's what I think the most people are going to struggle, and companies are going to struggle to
Yeah.
compete with just being able to plug information. Like, think about all the big information companies, McKinsey, all uh, the big companies that sold information for millions of dollars.
Hmm.
You could still they still have some proprietary information, but most of it is
Hmm.
public information.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, okay. So first of all, on the personal brand side, I would say yes. I agree with everything you said. Um, I would say that you know, for a while people were saying, okay, the resume is dead, and your resume is your LinkedIn. Um, I would say that the resume is dead, references are dead, and your resume and and your ability to get a job is your personal brand. I wrote an article about this with Alex Kittredge on I don't know if Alex is on here, but
Yeah, he's here.
yeah, Alex and I were speaking. And Alex talked brilliantly about all this with the portfolio career, and um, but I think that it is at a place where the uh your 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 ability to become employed is dependent on your your discussing, communicating about your expertise, your domain expertise in the world, um, and then also having the credibility and the verification of that from people you work with online, or from the popularity of articles that you wrote, or perspective, or the conversations that your work generates online. I think that it's not. I think everyone is is necessarily building a personal brand online. And I think that is how we will become employed, whether it's full-time employee with benefits, with all of that, or really it's we talk about solopreneur and we talk about creator economy. To me, foundationally, that's really an extension of the 1099 contract employee economy. Like, that's really what it is. Plenty of clients who hire me as a contractor to help them solve one specific problem. Now, that is as a consultant, as an advisor, as a whatever, and maybe they're paying my company, so I'm invoicing them as my company, or sometimes they're paying me as a 1099. Like, that happens too, and so I think it is. I think this whole discussion around personal brand, we think of it as, like what you and I have done on LinkedIn with all the content and daily engagement and all that stuff. And that's incredible. There's an incredible opportunity there to build a great living and business and life with that. You're a great example of that. Um, but I also think the creator economy is becoming the the entire workforce economy in that your resume is not it's not just your LinkedIn now. Your resume is your personal brand, and you must build that. Maybe we'll come up with a new word for it. I don't know, but see it as I think the size of the market and the importance of it is huge.
Yeah, well, that is another example of how the world changed.
Yeah.
It, it's like it moved online. Like I used to work for a digital marketing company, and I did
Yeah.
sales. And well, people would always the first objection you heard, 10 years ago, before things are the way they are now. I mean, everything is so deeply ingrained in it's woven AI technology, computers, like internet, like young kids right now don't realize it wasn't always like this. Like
Yeah.
we didn't have this type of technology where we can communicate with people in half a second on the other side of the world. And
Yeah.
so back then it was people said, "Oh, my business runs on referrals." But
Yeah.
referrals, the objection now overcoming that objection was that referrals moved online. So
Yep.
Google, like people trust Google reviews more than their mother. Like think about it. If your mom says, "Oh, you should go to this restaurant," what's the first thing you do? You look on Google at the reviews.
Yes.
You don't even
Yes.
trust your mom. So
Right.
what that says is that it's the same thing. Right now, it's just like I think there's what 5% of the 6 billion people that use social media every month are actually creators, and I really think it's less than
Oh,
that.
sure. I agree with that. Yeah.
Now with AI, like you said earlier, I mean, some of the posts I used to write would take 2 hours. Now they take, a minute. Like I can write these posts and have them decorated in a few minutes.
Yep.
So there's more creators than there were just 3 years ago before ChatGPT splash
Yeah.
big splash. But how many people are really diving deep? And I think it's a
Right.
real competitive advantage that people
Yeah.
will have. Like, so if anybody's listening, and I think a lot of people listening to this, to you and I talk,
Yeah.
are people that understand that, but I think
I
that
agree.
in the future, what you said is true, like, in the future, you won't need a resume. It's like you, submit your name to a company and they look you up. That's your resume, your digital blueprint, your
Yeah.
footprint, and, so if you don't have a good footprint, or if you're on TikTok and cursing and yelling about politics or talking about stupid things, that's
Yeah.
gonna hurt you. So you gotta
Oh,
cut
absolutely.
yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah.
I also think on the restaurant front, I think now everyone just goes to TikTok and sees what's going on. I think people get to I think I don't know what number it is. Does anyone in the chat know this? Like the TikTok search, where it is in like global search rankings? Like I know YouTube's the second biggest search engine in the world next to Google.
Yep.
Uh, does anyone know where TikTok sits? I know it's pretty high up there.
I don't know where it says, but I heard that for the first time, and you probably know this too,
Yeah.
Google went below 90%
Yeah.
for search for as the search tool because of ChatGPT. People are using AI for as a search engine instead of Google. So I
Yeah.
found that interesting
Yeah.
also.
That's
I think
funny. Hodman here in the chat. Hodman, I have X open here and yeah, Cloudflare. Uh yeah, the systems aren't working. Perplexity's not working, ChatGPT's not working. I don't think Claude's working. They're all yeah, Cloudflare has a huge outage right now.
Yeah, and so that's the big threat, right? And that's
No,
what you referred to a half hour ago with that's
no,
the big hurdle that they have to overcome. I think whoever
no.
figures that out first is gonna win, at least for
Yeah.
the 5 to 10 years, right?
If anyone wants a good laugh though, go on X and just search Cloudflare. There's some pretty Uh, there's some pretty funny stuff going on there.
So how are you using AI in your life to simplify your life besides the obvious, like, newsletter, like, using it
Hmm.
to format and find information, stuff like that. Do you use it in
I
other
use it. Well, I mean, I think the ways a lot of people are using it. I have it. I'm connected. My email's connected through on Claude and Perplexity. Though I predominantly use Comet and the assistant there, and and use it to search through email and survey my newsletters and and give me kind of news and synopsis of what's coming to my email in the last 24 hours. That's actually a big one. We all subscribe to far too many newsletters. I'm sure there are other tools out there to get quick synopses of all the newsletters we're receiving. But I've been using Comment, and then I just go in and I ask it every morning. I actually have a report that runs that goes and finds all the newsletters that come in from Substack from the prior day, gives me a summary of all of it, and I can sit down and read that, and I can figure out if I want to go more, go deeper on it. For me, it's a lot of reading. I find that I'm reading many more articles than I used to, in the sense that I take I will take a dozen different articles related to a topic that I want to cover. I load them into Notebook LM, since that's like a closed space where we'll only review the assets that I load into it. And then I have a whole conversation with Notebook LM, which I think that runs on Gemini. I would assume. I don't actually know that. But then I have a whole conversation with it about the different articles that I've been reading. Or if someone sends me a long article or an academic paper or something, and I want to understand it, I use it. I use Notebook LM quite a lot to understand what's actually there. So that's what I use it for. Scheduling, scheduling, booking trips, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, it's an amazing tool. I use it for, yeah, Hodman says Notebook LM runs on Gemini.
yeah,
Yeah.
thanks,
Yeah,
Hamid.
I mean, it's really just, it's here to simplify our lives, but it is a supplement. The one good thing I see is people like, Sam always, or Sharif or Window, they're always talking about, like, question the results.
Hmm.
And I think that that's really powerful. It wasn't until I've only been on Substack for like a month or 2 months or
Hmm.
something like that, and prior to that, I did one of my starting prompts is always like, "All right, I'm doing this. Ask me 10 questions that you need to guide me through this process."
Yeah,
But that's a great way to start any project. Instead of
yeah,
telling it what to do,
yeah,
have them ask me as an expert in
yeah.
whatever field
Right.
to flush out the nonsense
Yeah,
and get to
yeah,
the point. But to constantly question the results
yeah,
is, I
yeah,
think, a really valuable tip for anybody,
yeah.
because a lot of people are just like, they're
Hey,
rushing from dopamine hit to dopamine hit.
my dog is going nuts. I need to go check on my dog. I'll be right back. The only thing I would add is, when you ask it to do the 10 questions, I do that as well. One thing I always ask is, I say, ask me one at a time. I add that there so that it goes through and asks me the first question, and then I answer that question. And then, okay, you answered that. Great. Here's the second question. And it will go one at a time. Because if it's like 10, sometimes I find then I'll get through the first three and I'll be like, okay, that's fine. But really, question number 7 or 8 is the one that's really going to help me understand what I'm thinking about more, or is going to feed me some result that's really going to help my thinking. So I have it go through. I always ask in that prompt, say, and then, to ask me these questions one at a time. And then it just brings them up one by one. And that's like definitely like a prompting. The dog stopped. A prompting little nuance that
Yeah, that's really smart. I
yeah,
should do that too, because I know what you're talking about. It's like, oh, well, these first three are really good, and then we could just
yeah,
move on to the next
yeah.
thing. But yeah, you're cutting out some of the thoroughness that's in there. But I like it really. Well, when I prompt it, and everybody I know experiences this. You prompt it, and it says, "Wow, that's a really great idea. Good job saying that." And then it gives you some
Right,
answer. It just like strokes your ego constantly. But
right,
most people stop there, and then they go with that information. So it's
yeah.
like, have you heard of zero click?
No.
What zero click is like, so. But let's go back to the digital marketing of
Mhm,
10 years ago. It was
mhm,
like, when you do any type of Google search, there is
mhm.
a paid ads that come up first, because they make money on 90% of their
Yeah.
paid ads, and then there's the map. Right? And the map is brilliant because that gave everybody in the world a chance to be on the home page. Because if
Mhm.
you're not on the home page, nobody sees you. And then
Right.
underneath that, there was 10 or 20 articles. And people
Mhm.
used to read those articles because they would
Yeah.
be looking for the best answer to their question. That's what Google is. It's a question, or
Yeah.
Yelp, or whatever
Yeah.
search engine you're using. So the thing is, though, now there's AI. So
Yeah.
when you search for anything, the first answer that comes up, unless you're looking for a restaurant near you, is an
Hmm.
AI response because
Yeah.
nobody's reading the 10 or 20 articles anymore.
Right. Correct.
Nobody has the time. So
Right.
what that means, first of all, is really cool that we can access information that quick. However,
Hmm.
we're taking that information as the Bible. We're like,
Right.
that must be true because Google told it to me. So
Right.
that I think is a danger to a lot of people, depending on what you're trying to do. If you're
Yeah.
taking that information to make life changing decisions, you
Right.
really need to fact check where that's coming from. And it
Yes.
also gives Google a lot of power because Google
Mhm.
has one of the best moats that Google has is they have more information than anybody in the world.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's their, yeah. So that's the argument for then that Gemini ultimately becomes, I mean, I think I did Gemini has improved dramatically over the last year. I mean, it's fantastic. I use it quite a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Grok's really great too for video and image generation. Grok's become pretty fantastic for that. So
Yeah, you were showing me your results, your
yeah, if anyone looks at my profile and in my notes, I've been creating these little videos. Those videos are often uh, either Gemini created images or Midjourney created images that I then take, put into Canva, create them as a standalone PNG file in Canva, and then I've been dropping them up into the design, just the image design, dropping that up into Grok, and then that creates them. So anyway,
and animates them,
yeah,
your
yeah,
images. Yeah,
yeah,
they're really cool. I saw those. That's a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
there's so many different options, and I think that we need to start using all the options. And
I
everybody's
agree.
like, "Yeah, it's replacing jobs." It's not replacing jobs. It's replacing people who don't learn how to use AI.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Uh,
Hey, my wife is stepping out. Hang to work.
we
I
could
have to.
we'll wrap it up, and we'll just be
All
like,
right.
"This is a great chat, everybody. Thanks
Yeah.
for watching, and we'll tune in and try to do it again soon."
Yeah. Absolutely. We'll do it. All right.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. I
Good
could
luck
stay
with the
on for a
crowd
minute.
fair, everyone. All right.
John's
Bye.
gonna jump off, and I could stay on for a minute if anybody wants to chat. Hi, it's just me now. I don't know how exciting I could be. Does anybody have any questions or any comments or concerns, or anybody want to hop on and talk? I can invite somebody. I think I have like 10 minutes, or we can end it now. It's always fun to talk. Alex, you want to talk? We never had a talk. I see you in there. I can invite you if you want to talk live, an impromptu live. Those are always fun to do. I'm in my house. We just moved into a new house, so it's kind of a mess. This is real life happening right behind me here, and so that'll all be put together in the next, well, day or two, I think. But yeah, anyway, we had a great chat. John's a really smart guy. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he's like an economist, Harvard educated economist who knows his stuff. And so I always love talking with him. And I just love doing the Substack lives. I think it's a great way to connect with people. So uh I like talking about different types of topics, but this one went in that direction. So I'm kind of dried up on talks right now. But next week we'll have a different topic. I like to talk about like neuroscience and visions and putting your life together really well and successful businesses. That's what I like to talk about. But we were just talking about the AI bubble stuff. But if anybody has a question, cool, let me know. And if not, then I'll see you soon. And I'm wishing you well. If I can ever help, send me a message in my chat. I always love helping whenever possible. And if not, have a beautiful day. Bye for now.